Steve, John Dickinson, 95.7 The Game. Obviously, Andre has been ruled out for Game 1, but just what's kind of the latest on Andre, and how does this series change? He got a lot of the LeBron James assignments in previous series. How does it change if he can't play for one or more games?
Well, I mean, he was MVP of the series in 2015, largely because he took that role on of guarding LeBron, but also because of what he did offensively. He's doing a little bit better today. Some encouraging signs. And, we've got lots of guys who can take on that job. It's a group effort anyway, guarding LeBron. So KD, Draymond, Clay, Sean Livingston, they'll all see time on him.
Steve, Ann Killian with the San Francisco Chronicle. Game 7, Steph said that he felt there was a moment late in the second quarter when things could have splintered and guys could have really done some finger pointing. It was when Draymond had a turnover, Harden went down for a dunk, and you called a timeout. And I've never heard Steph use that word before, splintered. I'm wondering if you felt that there was concern about what was going on inside the team at that point, and if it could have. We
were splintered, for sure. We were out of sorts with all the turnovers, and that timeout was a little chaotic. I think we were frustrated. We were all frustrated at that point. But the one thing I know about our team is even though they're going to make mistakes, they're competitive, and they're always going to find a way to bring things back and get things going. Experience has a lot to do with that. So our second half was obviously much better. Our guys came together. But, yeah, it was a little chaotic during that huddle.
Steve, Ron Persick from the San Francisco Chronicle. You've probably been asked this in some form before, but what's your best theory on the third quarter? The numbers are just insane, how many more points you've scored, and the shooting percentages, particularly for Steph. It's like in the playoffs, 25-25, 60-25. What do you think's going on?
I think there's a few things. I think our guys in the regular season anyway, there's the first half, there's a lot of feeling out process of the game and figuring out what's what. A lot of games, maybe you go in, you're not doing so well in the first half, or it's tied, or maybe we're behind and guys are upset. So their competitive desire kicks in. I also think teams tend to play really, really hard against us from the beginning. We've been the hunted for the last few years, and I think teams are excited to play us. They come out on fire defensively, and it takes a lot out of them. And I think in the second half they wear down. I thought that happened in Houston the other night. Their defensive intensity was incredible. They had a lot to do with all of our turnovers and mistakes, but that takes a lot out of you. In the third quarter, teams tend to tire a little bit, and maybe that's why we make a push.
How do you think calms Steph? And when you look at his numbers, any theory or sense of – he's obviously a great shooter anytime, but –
No, I think it's what I just said. I think it's the maybe the fatigue factor for the other team defensively, and just the sense that it's time to pick it up.
Tim on the right side, third row.
Steve, Tim Reynolds with the Associated Press. The LeBron you're going to see now, how, as crazy as this might sound, have you noticed a continued evolution with him in these 4 finals that you've gotten ready to face him in? And also, how would you describe that evolution of him? I mean, how does the best player on the planet keep getting better even at this point?
It's remarkable. You think back 5 years ago, when he was with Miami, they were playing the Spurs, the finals, and the Spurs were going underneath on every screen, just daring him to shoot. Contrast that to now, where he's shooting fadeaway threes from 30 feet to close games out. I think his confidence level in his shot is the biggest thing. But I think it is pretty remarkable when you got a guy who's already considered one of the top few players ever to play the game can make that much improvement late in his career. It's a testament to his work ethic and to his work on his skill set. The shooting is what has really gotten better in the last few years.
Mark in the second row.
Steve, Mark Schwartz, ESPN. I have 2 for you. First of all, people always talk about LeBron's basketball IQ as being at the top of the Mount Everest. You have a player on your team in Draymond Green whose basketball intellect is really high, too. Just how high is Draymond's IQ, and can you give us some great anecdotes about that demonstrate his basketball intellect?
Draymond's is more like Mount Fuji, I would say. I don't know. Just trying to give you something to work with. Draymond is an incredibly sharp basketball mind. He sees the game as it happens, before it happens even. He's a kind of a move or two ahead of everybody on the defensive end. And it's amazing to have him out there to lead our defense, to get everybody organized, to save plays that are about to break down because he sees it happening before everyone else does. Probably the best defensive player I've ever seen. Scottie Pippen would be right there with him, but they're different in that Draymond has to guard fives. The league is different. You know, I don't know if Draymond could have guarded Shaq and Hakeem and, you know, those guys, but those guys don't exist anymore. So the way the game is played now, the ability to guard 1 through 5, I don't think there's anybody who can compare to Draymond.
And secondly, the other day at shoot-around, Steph really reacted to this narrative that it's LeBron and 11 guys from SNL playing for the Cavaliers. You know, first of all, how dangerous is such a narrative for your group, and what does it say about LeBron that everyone thinks he single-handedly brought this group across the finish line?
Yeah, well, you know, Michael had the Jordan errors. You know, it's anytime you have a team that's led by somebody who's considered the greatest player of all time or one of them, you know, there's going to be an interesting sort of dynamic with the teammates, you know, and we have great respect for the other guys. You know, Kevin Love is an all-star, perennial all-star, great three-point shooter, physical rebounder. Kyle Korver, one of the great shooters of all time. We've seen JR, I think last time he was in this building, he had like 30 points in Game 5 last year. We know what these guys can do. You don't get to the finals with one man, no matter how good that one man is. So we have great respect for the Cavs, their resiliency, the fact that they're here 4 years in a row. We know exactly how hard that is. So we're preparing for a lot more than just LeBron, that's for sure.
Jeff on the right side.
Jeff Zilgett, USA Today. Steve, LeBron plays with 4 guys on the team who used to play against him deep into the playoffs. You were with Cleveland at one point in your career, played against Jordan deep into the playoffs, and then you joined his team. What's the difference playing against a guy like that and then playing alongside a guy like that?
It's a lot more fun, I can tell you that. You know, I just think that when you have a great player on your team, it's a lot easier. The game becomes easier. And, you know, with our team, you know, we're not a one-man show. We got a lot of guys who can take over games, but it has to fit. The pieces have to fit. And what I like about our team is our guys are very unselfish. They all fit together well. They play off of each other, and we found a nice groove.
Just briefly, Steve, when you played against him, was it a feeling of frustration?
Against Michael?
Yes.
Yeah, it was very frustrating. A lot more fun playing with him. I do remember, though, the first time I guarded him when I was in Cleveland, he faked right, faked back left, and went right. And I stayed right in front of him, but only because I went for the first fake. And we came to the bench, and Lenny Wilkins said, guys, did you see what Steve just did? He stayed in front. That's what you have to do. I said, that's right, guys. Come on. I was literally still going for the first fake, and he came right back to me. So that was my highlight.
Marla in the middle.
Marla Ridenour, Akron Beacon Journal. When Ty came back from his leave of absence, he said that you were really important in talking to him when he was out. And could you, I mean, I don't know if you want to share anything you said, but could you tell how hard it was for him to take that leave of absence?
I just called. We texted. I called first and then texted. And we had a good text exchange. I just tried to share some of my experience when I was out last year. And the main message was, you know, you can't allow what feels like the enormity of the job to interfere with your health and your recovery and whatever you need to do. You know, I just told him the team will still be there when you get back, but sometimes I think in this job, because there's so much passion from the fan bases and because everybody wants to win so badly, it feels bigger than It really is. So it's just kind of a reminder that we're just playing a sport. Get better yeah, it was a good exchange. I'm a big fan of Ty's. I don't think he gets enough credit, frankly. But that's probably the burden of coaching LeBron. There's a lot of benefits, but there's a burden too. And Ty has done a phenomenal job with that team, made great adjustments throughout the playoffs when they've been in some holes. So we have great respect for their coaching staff, and I'm really thrilled that he's back and looking healthy.
Monty, last question before Steph comes in.
You've have gone 4 games without Andre now, and you've kind of patched it with Lune and JB and a little bit of Nick Young. What do you and your staff what have you seen from those guys that you've used instead of Andre over the course of these last 4 games, and just, what's your view of their evolution as a group?
Well, they're all doing well individually, but none of them play at all like Andre. So we've had to adapt our style a little bit. I think one of the reasons we were a little scattered in the end of that Houston series was we didn't have Andre playing that familiar point forward role, getting us settled, getting us into our offense. So we've just had to adapt and adjust and play through other people. And the guys you mentioned have all played their roles really well. Jordan, I thought, played exceptionally well in that Houston series, making some plays, setting some good screens, creating some offense. And Nick had a really good series, guarded well and made some big shots. I thought his shot in the third quarter of the Houston game was one of the key shots of the game. It really got us going.
How do we get across?